The MCU is back. Post-Endgame, the Avengers have been on a hiatus of sorts, and it's led the MCU down a path I just can't follow.
Anakin, you're breaking my heart. You're going down a path I can't follow.
Since Endgame, we are yet to see the Avengers band together again, and we're left to ask ourselves, has it been too long? Without them, we've seen solo stories and smaller teams share varied elements of successes and failures. I think films like Spider-Man No Way Home, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Deadpool and Wolverine have continued to push the characters and the MCU in the right direction, while films like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and Black Widow have fell into being the same tropey superhero films that get people muttering the dreaded phrase, superhero fatigue. And there have been other hits and misses since 2019, but flash forward to 2025 and we're actually trending in a direction again? For a while it seemed like things weren't moving in the same direction or making progress to the connected universe as a whole at all. But Thunderbolts actually promises a seemingly exciting and cohesive future for the MCU that could return to an elevated version of the storytelling we all fell in love with, created by films like Iron Man, Captain America the First Avenger, The Avengers, and many other projects throughout phases 1 through 3. Hello and welcome to Studio Cinema Saturday, the show where we review films old and new, the ones you don't like and the ones you do. I'm your host, Kael, and today we are pondering the future of the MCU after Marvel's latest film, Thunderbolts with an asterisk, directed by Jake Shreier. And I'm going to come right out and spoil the ending of the film here. Marvel did it on their Instagram after opening weekend, which I thought was early, but it makes me feel less bad about doing it. AMC has even changed the poster outside of the theater. That's wild to me. They pretty much ran a whole fake advertising campaign with the use of the team name Thunderbolts. I never expected them to do something like this, as I really just didn't think they had the balls to do it. But man, it was pretty genius to do it when they did. We just dealt with Thunderbolt Ross, who has led the Thunderbolts in the comics. This is a team that people have wanted for years, and we have just had a shadow left by what used to be the Avengers in the MCU. I think it's very fitting for this new team, the new Avengers, to even take over the old Avengers Tower. To add to that, we know Kevin Feige is addressing the shadow in a hardcore manner, as we're about to get 4 new teams after the end of this movie, with the new Avengers, the return of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and he said we're on a 10-year plan for the X-Men. Complete side note, I love the everlasting debate that is comic fans calling the X-Men the best Marvel team and movie fans holding the Avengers as the best team of all time. Let me know which team you like more and why in the comments. I think the biggest tale of this being a fake Thunderbolts movie was just obviously the asterisk, as none of us knew what it meant at the time, as well as the roster of characters here. Yes, all of these characters have been Thunderbolts in the comics, but Captain America 4 writes out Thunderbolt Ross, and I think that was the first red flag of, this might not be the movie I think it's gonna be. Another thing early on in the movie that hinted at what might be going on was the early death of Taskmaster, as her comic book counterpart is a former leader of the Thunderbolts. To me, these just weren't the most iconic Thunderbolts characters. I think if it would have gone that way, it could have used a few more characters like Hawkeye, Venom, Swordsman, just to throw some semi-available names out there. Glad they ended up making this team the new Avengers. This is pretty much the state we are left in after the events of Thunderbolts. Can I just call it the new Avengers movie? Or should I call it Thunderbolts? I don't know, but this is the most excited I've been, not just for the slate of films, but for the actual story arcs that are going on across the interconnected stories in a good 5 years or so. So before we find out whether or not these new Avengers can save the MCU, let's just look at this movie as a whole for a minute. I did like it, but I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's one of my favorite MCU movies. I liked the back half and where things are headed because of this movie, but the setup felt a little cheese to me. Everyone showing up to one place to kill each other was a fun gag, but that's about it. Although the character interaction and introduction to Bob was the highlight of this first half of the movie. So let's talk about the characters for a minute. Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh, and David Arbor as Red Guardian totally steal the show in my opinion.
Yeah!
Red Guardian is absolutely hilarious, but counters this by nailing the emotional moments he has as a regretful father trying to be there for his daughter. Yelena's story is what really sells the emotional impact for me though. She is feeling unsatisfied and even depressed by the result of her brutal lifestyle. And while she goes on an incredibly emotional arc throughout the film, if her fear of death wasn't completely gone, or if she wasn't able to relate to the unwell mental state of Bob, they would have never been able to stop Void from destroying New York. I would also add Bob, Sentry, Void to the list of good characters as well. It felt like they played it safe, although I would have liked another Sentry scene or two. The one we did get felt very inspired by The Boys, which was fun. Lewis Pullman put on a great performance on screen for us though. Then I think there are some characters the movie didn't do full justice to, like Bucky, who feels sidelined at times, and the fact that watching him be a congressman wasn't the most fun just kind of sucks. Or John Walker, who I want to like. He's had a rough go at it and the world has been tough on him for his mistakes. A friend pointed out to me that as Captain America, Steve Rogers always introduced himself as Steve Rogers, even when he was Cap. And John Walker always introduced himself as Captain America when he donned the shield. I think this is a cool representation of their personalities. But then we have the characters that saw no improvement. Two characters I already wasn't the craziest about, Ghost and Taskmaster. Ghost was cooler, I guess, but really just served the team because she had a cool and useful gimmick. They also have way less screen time, and I was cool with that. Truthfully, I think the plot, cinematography, and sound elements as a film were upper to middle of the pack for the MCU. The movie doesn't really have any wowing moments. Actually, I just lied to you. There is one. Yelena does jump off the second tallest building in the world. This was a Guinness World Record, and the film also has the record for longest MCU post-credit cutscene for the reveal of the new Avengers. So I guess there's some wow factor to that. Her jumping off that building was awesome. Now, have these new Avengers saved the declining state of the MCU movies and superhero movies as a whole? I'm going to say they have made a step in the right direction. But have they saved the MCU? Not yet. I'm going to further a point we made in a semi-recent video where my co-host Jackson Ham talks about how James Gunn's Superman has a massive load on its shoulders when it comes to the future of superhero films. And I think this point's totally true. Superman's one of the biggest IPs in superheroes, and if that movie sucks, people are gonna watch less superhero movies. If that movie does amazing, people will be excited for more superhero movies. Just kinda how this thing works. And I'm going to flip that coin and say Thunderbolts and even Daredevil Born Again do their job at drawing us back into the MCU. But it's up to Fantastic Four, Avengers Doomsday, and Spider-Man 4 to really blow up at the box office and tell compelling, non-recycled stories that keep people interested in the MCU's overarching story. You know, that's essentially what led so much hype to Infinity War and Endgame, or just all of these other good solo and team-up movies that just blended together so well to give us what we ended up getting. One of the biggest events in cinematic history. If you liked this video, go ahead and like it and subscribe so you can catch up on our next video. If you're looking for another video to watch and you're wondering where Daredevil Born Again falls into this, go watch our last video on it. Or check out our other videos from Studio Cinema Saturday or its sister show Television Tuesday, where we're just here talking movies and TV. But we're not just here reviewing movies, we're here making them too. Go check out some of our short films or even a comedy skit. Any of the other Studio 24 content for that matter. I'll see you there.